The patrol ship drifted silently through the darkness of space, its sensors sweeping the border regions with practiced precision. Captain Reed stood at the command center, his 4 eyes scanning the holographic displays, while his crew worked their stations with quiet efficiency. Another routine day protecting the Galactic Council's borders. Or so they thought. The alert came without warning. A massive energy signature appeared at the edge of their scanning range. Too big to be a merchant vessel, and moving too purposefully to be a derelict. Reed's upper eyes widened while his lower pair narrowed, a sign of concern in his species. "Unknown vessel detected," announced the sensor operator, their voice calm but tense. "Configuration doesn't match any known species in our database." Reed straightened his uniform. First contact protocols were clear. Approach with caution, display peaceful intentions, and gather information. "Send the standard greeting package," he ordered. "All languages, all frequencies." The response came faster than expected, and in perfect galactic standard. "This is Captain James of the HMS Thunder. We acknowledge your greeting." The voice was steady, professional, and unmistakably human. The bridge fell silent. Humans. Impossible. Earth had been contained within a quarantine field for the past 3 centuries, deemed too violent and unpredictable for contact with galactic society. Their development had been carefully monitored and suppressed. They shouldn't have ships this far out. They shouldn't have ships at all. Scanning their vessel, the science officer reported, fingers dancing across the control surface. Their voice cracked slightly. "Sir, they have grade 8 shields. Their weapon systems are. They're more advanced than ours." Reed felt a chill run down his spine. Grade 8 technology was cutting edge even for the Council's military. These humans hadn't just broken free. They'd surpassed their jailers. "Captain Reed," the human voice came again. "We understand this is an unexpected situation. We're transmitting our credentials and peaceful intentions. However, be advised that any hostile actions will be met with appropriate force." The threat wasn't subtle, but it wasn't aggressive either, just matter of fact. Reed studied the sensor readings again. The human ship was beautiful in a terrifying way, its dark hull gleaming with barely contained power. Weapon ports were visible but closed, and its shields hummed at minimal power, confident but not threatening. "We've analyzed their credentials," his communications officer reported. "They're real. This ship is part of something called the Human Defense Fleet. They've got legitimate diplomatic codes." Reed's mind raced. This wasn't just a random encounter. This was humanity announcing their presence to the galaxy. The quarantine had failed, and no one had noticed until this moment. How long had they been free? How many ships like this did they have? "Captain James," Reed responded carefully, "your presence here is unexpected. Our records indicate your species should be." He paused, searching for diplomatic words. "Contained, imprisoned, held back." James finished for him. "Those records are outdated, Captain Reed. Humanity has chosen to rejoin galactic society. Your council can either accept this gracefully or the human let the sentence hang unfinished." Reed looked at his crew, seeing his own shock and fear reflected in their expressions. His ship's weapons would be useless against the human vessel's defenses, and he suspected the reverse wasn't true. More importantly, the humans had somehow managed to not only break free, but advance centuries beyond their expected development. "I must report this to the Council," Reed said finally. "Of course," James replied, and Reed could hear the smile in his voice. "We anticipated that. In fact, we have diplomatic representatives already en route to the Council chambers. Consider this just a courtesy notice. Humanity is back, and we've learned a lot during our isolation." As Reed prepared his report, he couldn't help but wonder how the Council would react. Humanity hadn't just broken their chains. They'd forged them into something new and powerful. The galaxy was about to change, and he had a front-row seat to the beginning of that change. The HMS Thunder hung in space before them, a dark promise of things to come. Humanity's forced isolation had ended, But Reed suspected this was just the beginning of a much bigger story. The news spread through the Galactic Council like wildfire. Humans had broken free. As emergency meetings were called and politicians argued, Captain James stood on the bridge of the HMS Thunder, watching the stars with a quiet smile. His ship wasn't just a display of power, it was a testament to human determination. "They're scanning us again," his sensor officer reported. "Third detailed scan in the last hour. They still can't believe what they're seeing." James nodded. The alien patrol ship hadn't left their side, probably under orders to keep watching. He understood their confusion. The Thunder's hull was made of materials that shouldn't exist, powered by engines that combined alien science with human innovation. Every part of the ship told a story of humanity's secret rise to power. "Show them the engine room feed," James ordered. It wasn't standard protocol, but that was the point. Let them see exactly what humanity had achieved. The feed showed the Thunder's heart, a fusion reactor surrounded by reversed engineered alien tech, all improved by human engineers. Where alien designs focused on stability, humans had pushed for power. Where alien safety protocols demanded caution, humans had found ways to safely push the limits. On the alien ship, Captain Reed watched the feed with growing amazement. "Impossible," he whispered. "They've modified our containment field technology into a power amplification system." His engineers were frantically taking notes, but they all knew they were looking at technology beyond their understanding. "Your containment field was impressive," James said over the comm channel. "We learned a lot from studying it. Took us 50 years to crack it, another 20 to improve it. Want to see what else we learned?" Without waiting for a response, James nodded to his weapons officer. The Thunder's side panel slid open, revealing rows of point defense systems that made the alien crew gasp. They weren't just weapons, they were perfect hybrids of human and alien technology, each one a testament to human ingenuity. "The field wasn't perfect," James explained, his voice casual but carrying weight. "It blocked our signals to space, limited our technology, but it couldn't block our view of the stars. We watched, we learned, we planned. Every ship that passed Earth, every bit of technology we could detect. It all taught us something." Reed's voice came back, slightly shaky. "How many ships do you have?" James laughed. "Enough. The Thunder isn't even our biggest. Just thought it would be polite to make first contact with something modest." The truth was, humanity had been free for longer than anyone suspected. The containment field had failed gradually, not suddenly. Humans had kept up the pretense, building their fleet in secret shipyards, hidden in asteroid belts, and behind gas giants. Every year they grew stronger, learned more, pushed further. "We've established colonies," James continued, enjoying the shocked silence from the alien ship. "Nothing too ambitious, just a few dozen worlds in unclaimed systems. We were careful, quiet, until now." He pulled up an image on his personal display. Earth, as seen from orbit. The containment field that had once shimmered around the planet was gone, replaced by a network of defense satellites that put anything in the Galactic Council's arsenal to shame. "Your council made one crucial mistake," James said, his voice growing serious. "They thought isolation would keep us weak. Instead, it made us stronger. We had to solve our own problems, overcome our own challenges. Everything we built ourselves." The Thunder's engines pulsed, a casual display of power that made the alien ship's sensors scream warnings. They'd taken the basic principles of alien FTL drives and refined them, pushed them to limits their creators never imagined possible. "So here's what happens next," James said. "Humanity is rejoining galactic society. Not as prisoners, not as primitives, but as equals. Your council can either accept that, or..." He let the threat hang unspoken, knowing the Thunder's presence made it clear enough. In the silence that followed, both captains knew the galaxy had changed forever. Humanity hadn't just broken their chains, they'd rebuilt them into something new, something powerful. The age of human isolation was over. The age of human expansion had begun. The grand chamber of the Galactic Council buzzed with nervous energy. Representatives from 50 alien species filled the circular room, their voices mixing into a storm of worried whispers. At the center of the chamber, a hologram showed the HMS Thunder floating in space, a dark reminder of how everything had changed. "This is unprecedented," shouted one of the council members, his scaled skin flushing bright orange with anger. The containment protocols were perfect. They were tested for centuries. Ambassador Thomas walked into the chamber, his simple black uniform a stark contrast to the elaborate robes of the council members. 2 human guards followed him, their powered armor making the council's security forces look primitive in comparison. The room fell silent. "Perfect?" Thomas asked, his voice carrying easily through the chamber. "Perfect enough that we broke through them 15 years ago, and none of you even noticed." He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Perfect enough that we've built colonies right under your noses." The head counselor, an ancient being named Elder Morgan, leaned forward on his floating platform. "Ambassador, surely we can discuss this like civilized beings. The containment was for your own protection, and for the safety of the galaxy." Thomas pulled out a small device and placed it on the floor. It projected a series of images: human colonies on distant worlds, massive space stations hidden in nebulae, shipyards building vessels that made the Thunder look small. "Let's discuss the truth," Thomas said. "You didn't contain us for our protection. You contained us because you were afraid. Afraid of what humanity might become if we reached the stars. And now you know your fears were justified." The chamber erupted in protests, but Thomas raised his hand. The power armor of his guards hummed slightly, and the room quieted again. Even the council's most aggressive members could recognize a subtle threat. "We found your monitoring stations," Thomas continued. "Decoded your transmissions. We know you've been experimenting on humans, testing our reactions, studying our responses to artificial crises you created. Did you really think we wouldn't figure it out?" Elder Morgan's skin paled. "Those operations were supposed to be secret, known only to the highest levels of the council. Ambassador, please understand. We had to be sure." "Sure of what?" Thomas interrupted. "Sure that we were too violent, too unpredictable, too dangerous." He walked to the center of the chamber, his footsteps echoing. "You wanted to study human nature. Well, congratulations. You're about to see it firsthand." The hologram changed, showing a map of known space. Red dots appeared, marking human colonies and installations. There were hundreds of them, scattered through supposedly empty sectors, hidden in places the council had never thought to look. "Humanity doesn't want war," Thomas said, his voice softening slightly. "We never did. But we've learned something from our isolation. We'll never be prisoners again. Not to you, not to anyone." A younger council member, braver or perhaps more foolish than the others, stood up. "Are you threatening us, Ambassador?" Thomas shook his head. "No. I'm offering you a choice. Accept humanity as equals, open proper diplomatic relations, establish fair trade agreements, or we'll do it anyway, without your approval. We don't need your permission anymore." The chamber fell silent again as the council members looked at each other. They had contained humanity out of fear, but their actions had created exactly what they feared most: a human civilization that had grown strong through adversity, advanced through necessity, and united through shared hardship. "There's something else you should know," Thomas added, his expression growing serious. "Something we discovered during our expansion. A threat that concerns all of us, human and alien alike. That's the real reason I'm here today." Elder Morgan leaned forward again. "What kind of threat?" Thomas looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes and eye stalks and sensory organs of each council member. "The kind that makes our little confrontation here seem meaningless. The kind that might require all of us, humans and council alike, to work together if we want to survive." The hologram changed one final time, showing something that made even the oldest council members gasp in recognition and fear. The age of human isolation was over, but a new and darker chapter was about to begin. The hologram floated in the council chamber, showing something that looked like a massive dark cloud moving through space. But this was no natural phenomenon. The cloud was made up of thousands of ships, all of them ancient and all of them deadly. "We found the first signs 3 years ago," Thomas explained, his voice grave. "Deep space sensors picked up movement from the galactic core. At first, we thought it was a sensor malfunction. Then we found the ruins." The hologram shifted to show a dead world, its surface scarred by weapons fire from thousands of years ago. The council members watched in horror as more images appeared, planet after planet, all showing the same ancient devastation. Admiral Stone stepped forward, his military uniform carrying medals that no council member could recognize. "The ruins told us everything. There was an empire out there, older than any of your civilizations. They didn't believe in cooperation or diplomacy. They believed in cleaning the galaxy of what they called lesser beings." "Impossible," Elder Morgan whispered. "The ancient texts speak of them, but they were supposed to be extinct." "They weren't extinct," Stone said. "They were sleeping, waiting in suspended animation while their automated systems repaired their fleet. And now they're awake." The evidence was undeniable. Deep space scans, ancient records, archaeological findings. Humanity had pieced it all together while exploring their newly claimed territory. The greatest threat the galaxy had ever known was returning, and only humanity had noticed. "This is why we developed the Phoenix Protocol," Thomas continued. He pressed a button on his wrist device, and new images appeared. Massive space stations hidden in asteroid fields, shipyards building vessels unlike anything the Council had seen before, defensive installations that could destroy entire fleets. "You were so busy watching Earth, making sure we stayed contained, that you never noticed us preparing for something much bigger," Stone added. "Every ship we built, every weapon we developed, every strategy we planned, it was all for this moment." The council chamber was silent. The truth was overwhelming. Humanity hadn't just broken free and advanced. They had been preparing for a war that the rest of the galaxy didn't even know was coming. "The Phoenix Protocol has 3 phases," Stone explained, bringing up tactical displays. "First, evacuation of civilian populations from likely target worlds. Second, deployment of our combined fleet to key defensive positions. Third," he paused, looking grim, "third is something we hope we never have to use." Thomas stepped forward again. "We're not asking for your permission anymore. We're asking for your help. Your technology, your resources, your people, combined with our ships, our strategies, our determination." The council members looked at each other, centuries of fear and distrust warring with the undeniable threat before them. The humans had done what none of them had thought possible, not just advancing beyond their containment, but preparing for a threat that would affect everyone. "How long do we have?" Elder Morgan asked, his voice shaking. 3 months, Stone replied. "Maybe less. Their fleet is moving faster than we expected. We've already begun deploying our forces, but we need your help to cover every possible approach." The hologram changed one final time, showing the full extent of human military preparation. Hidden bases, cloaked satellites, automated defense platforms. Humanity had built it all in secret, not just for themselves, but for everyone. "The containment field taught us something important," Thomas said softly. "It taught us to be patient, to plan, to prepare. We could have broken free years ago, but we waited until we were ready. Not just ready to free ourselves, but ready to defend everyone." Admiral Stone pulled up more tactical displays. "This is what we're offering. Full integration of our military forces, sharing of all our defense technologies, and implementation of the Phoenix Protocol across all Council worlds." The Council chamber buzzed with urgent discussions. The choice was clear: continue to fear and distrust humanity, or join with them against a threat that could destroy everything. In the end, it wasn't really a choice at all. Elder Morgan stood, his ancient frame straight with determination. "Tell us what you need. The Council stands with humanity." The Phoenix Protocol was about to begin, and the galaxy would never be the same. The ancient fleet emerged from hyperspace like a storm of dark metal, their ships blocking out the stars. The Council Defense Fleet, once considered the most powerful force in the galaxy, looked small and fragile in comparison. But they weren't alone anymore. Captain James stood on the bridge of the HMS Thunder, now joined by hundreds of other human warships. The combined human-alien fleet stretched out before him, a display of unity that would have been impossible just months ago. "Enemy fleet will be in range in 5 minutes," his tactical officer reported. "Their weapons are charging. Energy readings are off the charts." James nodded calmly. "Send the signal. Begin Phase 1 of the Phoenix Protocol." Across the fleet, hidden devices activated. The humans had placed them weeks ago. Tiny machines that interfered with the ancient ship's sensors. It wasn't much, but even a small advantage could change everything. The first shots came from the ancient fleet, beams of energy that could tear planets apart. But the combined fleet was ready. Human ships moved with impossible speed, their enhanced engines pushing the limits of physics. Council ships followed patterns developed through centuries of tactical experience. "Now," James ordered. The Thunder's weapon ports opened, revealing the true extent of human military innovation. Not just guns and energy weapons, but devices that the ancient fleet had never seen before, weapons that used their own power against them. The battle erupted into chaos. Ancient ships, expecting easy targets, found themselves facing an enemy that refused to die. Human vessels took hits that should have destroyed them, their improved shields holding just long enough to strike back. Council ships, guided by human tactical advice, struck from angles the enemy never expected. "Their formation is breaking," someone reported. The ancient fleet, used to simple opponents who fell quickly, didn't know how to handle this kind of resistance. Their perfect lines began to crack. James watched as the Thunder dove through enemy fire, leading a strike team deep into the heart of the ancient fleet. Human engineers had studied the ruins, learned the weaknesses of these ancient vessels. Now it was time to use that knowledge. "Launch the disruptors," he commanded. Small devices shot out from his ship, attaching to enemy vessels. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the ancient ships began to lose power, their own energy systems turned against them by human ingenuity. The Council fleet watched in amazement as human tactics changed the course of battle. Where the ancients used brute force, humans used cunning. Where the ancients relied on pure power, humans found ways to turn that power against them. Multiple enemy ships disabled. The tactical officer reported with growing excitement. "The disruptors are working better than we expected. Their power systems are completely confused." But the ancient fleet was vast, and they were learning. Their ships began to adapt, changing tactics, becoming more dangerous. The battle was far from over. "All ships, execute Pattern Delta," James ordered. It was a maneuver they'd practiced in secret, something the ancient fleet had never seen before. Human and Council ships moved together like dancers, creating gaps in their lines that looked like weaknesses but were actually traps. The ancient ships took the bait. They pushed forward into what looked like breaking points in the defense, only to find themselves caught in carefully planned killing zones. Human weapons struck from all sides while Council ships provided coverage fire. "Enemy fleet is pulling back," came the report. "They're regrouping for another attack." James smiled grimly. The ancient fleet had expected to find easy prey. Instead, they'd found humanity, stubborn, innovative, and unwilling to accept defeat. And now, for the first time in their long history, they were the ones who felt fear. "Launch Phase 2, he ordered. Across the battlefield, new weapons powered up. The ancient fleet was about to learn why containing humanity had been such a terrible mistake. The real battle was just beginning, and humanity was ready to show the galaxy exactly what they could do when pushed to their limits. The ancient fleet regrouped, their ships forming new patterns that none of the Council's tactical computers could predict. But Captain James wasn't worried. He'd learned long ago that computers weren't everything. Sometimes you needed human instinct. "They're trying to box us in," he said, watching the enemy movements, just like humans used to do in naval battles on Earth. He smiled, remembering all those history books he'd studied. Old battles, old strategies. They were about to become useful again. The Thunder's bridge crew worked with practiced speed, coordinating with both human and alien ships. The Council members had been shocked when humans insisted on cross-training their crews, but now they understood why. Every ship in the combined fleet had at least one human officer aboard, bringing with them centuries of warfare experience that had been gained the hard way. "Enemy ships are launching some kind of new weapon," the sensor officer reported. Strange objects were shooting out from the ancient vessels, glowing with deadly energy. "Hold position," James ordered, even as other ships began to pull back. He'd seen something in the enemy's attack pattern, something that reminded him of an old Earth tactic. "Prepare to execute Maneuver 7. The Council fleet commanders were confused. This wasn't in any of their tactical databases, but they'd learned to trust human instincts, especially James. Their ships held position alongside the Thunder, waiting. The ancient weapons approached, their energy readings climbing higher and higher. At the last possible moment, James gave the order. Now. The combined fleet moved as one, their ships rolling in ways that the ancient weapons hadn't been programmed to handle. Energy beams that should have struck vital systems instead hit reinforced armor at odd angles, dispersing their power harmlessly. "Return fire," James commanded. The Thunder's newest weapons powered up, systems that combined human creativity with alien technology in ways neither side had imagined possible. Where the ancients used pure energy, humans had learned to use gravity itself as a weapon. Enemy ships found themselves caught in artificial gravity wells, their own momentum turned against them. The Council fleet, following human guidance, struck at exactly the right moments. Ships that had survived for thousands of years began to break apart. "Look at their formation," James said, pointing at the tactical display. "They fight like machines. Perfect, predictable, unchanging." He turned to his crew, both human and alien. "But we're not machines. We adapt. We improvise. We overcome." The ancient fleet was massive, their technology far advanced, but they had a critical weakness. They couldn't understand why their opponents weren't following expected patterns. Every time they adapted to one human tactic, 3 more would appear. "Launch the Phase 3 devices," James ordered. These were humanity's greatest secret, tiny machines that could rewrite the ancient fleet's own command systems. Not through brute force, but through clever coding that even the Council's best engineers couldn't fully understand. The devices struck home, burrowing into enemy ships. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then ancient vessels began to turn on each other, their weapons firing at their own allies. The perfect formation began to crumble. "Their main command ship is vulnerable," the tactical officer reported. "But we'll have to get past their entire defense screen to reach it." James nodded. This was the moment they'd prepared for. "Signal all ships. Execute the Phoenix Protocol's final phase." Across the battlefield, human ships began to move in ways that defied conventional physics. They'd kept their best technology hidden until this moment, waiting for when it would matter most. The Council fleet watched in amazement as human vessels seemed to bend space itself, appearing where they couldn't possibly be. The ancient fleet, for the first time in their long history, began to retreat. But it was too late. Humanity had spent years preparing for this battle, studying every possibility, planning for every contingency. They weren't just fighting with weapons and ships. They were fighting with the accumulated knowledge of every war humanity had ever fought. "Target their command ship," James ordered. The Thunder's main weapon powered up, combining technologies that should have been impossible to merge. Let's show them why you should never underestimate humans. The battle was about to end, but its lesson would echo through the galaxy forever. Humanity hadn't just survived. They had changed the very nature of warfare itself. The ancient command ship exploded in a burst of light that lit up the battlefield like a new star. Its destruction sent a cascade of failures through the remaining enemy fleet. Ships that had terrorized the galaxy for countless millennia began to power down, their crews falling into emergency hibernation as their command protocols failed. Captain James watched from the Thunder's bridge as the combined human-alien fleet moved in to secure the disabled vessels. The battle was over, but its impact was just beginning to sink in. All enemy ships have either been destroyed or disabled, his tactical officer reported, his voice tired but proud. Council ships are beginning recovery operations. No signs of any remaining hostile forces. The bridge crew, both human and alien, looked at each other with a mixture of exhaustion and disbelief. They had done what should have been impossible. The ancient fleet, the terror of galaxies past, had been defeated by the very species that the Council had once tried to contain. "Send word to Earth," James ordered. The Phoenix Protocol was successful. The threat has been eliminated. He paused, looking at the alien members of his crew, "and send the same message to the Council. This victory belongs to all of us." 3 months later, the Grand Council chamber looked very different. The curved walls now displayed images of both Council and human achievements. Where there had once been fear and distrust, now there was respect and cooperation. Ambassador Thomas stood at the center of the chamber, but this time he wasn't alone. Captain James, Admiral Stone, and representatives from every human colony stood with him. The council members, led by Elder Morgan, watched with newfound admiration. The containment of Earth was the council's greatest mistake, Elder Morgan announced, his voice carrying through the chamber. But from that mistake came our salvation. Humanity didn't just survive our attempts to limit them. They grew stronger, wiser, more innovative. Thomas stepped forward. "We could have sought revenge when we broke free," he said. "Many wanted to. But we chose a different path. We chose to prepare not just for our own defense, but for the defense of all." The holographic displays showed the aftermath of their victory. Human ships working alongside council vessels to clean up the debris of battle. Alien crews learning to use human-designed weapons. Human engineers teaching council scientists new ways to think about old problems. "The ancient fleet taught us all a valuable lesson," James added. "The galaxy is too big, too dangerous for any species to stand alone. Our strength lies not in isolation, but in cooperation." Admiral Stone activated a new display, showing the combined fleet's new structure. Human ships would serve alongside council vessels. Training would be shared, technologies would be exchanged, and the barriers that had once divided them would continue to fall. "The Phoenix Protocol isn't over," Stone explained. "What started as a defensive plan has become something more, a blueprint for our shared future." Elder Morgan raised his hands, and the chamber fell silent. "Let it be recorded," he declared, "that from this day forward, Earth and all human colonies are not just free from containment, but are full and equal members of the Galactic Council. Their achievement in defeating the ancient fleet has earned them not just our gratitude, but our trust." The chamber erupted in applause. Council members who had once feared humanity now stood to honor them. The same determination and creativity that had made humans seem dangerous had become their greatest gift to the galaxy. On the screens above, the HMS Thunder led a patrol of mixed human and alien ships. Its dark hull, once a symbol of humanity's defiance, now represented something greater, the beginning of a new age of cooperation and mutual respect. James watched the patrol from his new office on Earth. The containment field that had once imprisoned humanity was gone, replaced by a network of defensive satellites built through human-alien cooperation. They would face new challenges, new threats, but they would face them together. Humanity had not just survived. They had changed the very nature of galactic civilization. Their spirit of innovation, their determination to overcome any obstacle, their ability to turn adversity into advantage. These qualities had transformed them from prisoners into leaders. The stars beckoned, and this time, all species would explore them together.